You are welcome to my channel. I am Benjamin Amefule. I am a legal practitioner in Nigeria. In this channel, we discuss topics on Nigerian law. We discuss anything, any topic that borders on Nigerian law. Yes, any topic that borders on Nigerian law. In this series of discussion, we are discussing on matrimonial issues, matrimonial jurisprudence. And for the purpose of this particular video, we are going to look at invalid marriages, certain things that will make a marriage that is purportedly celebrated under the Act to be invalid. So if you think this is very important to you, please do not forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share, and help us and encourage us so that anytime we post any video of this type in this channel, you'll be the very first to see it and enjoy it. Now, as I was saying, today in this particular video, we are going to look at invalid marriages. That is, marriages celebrated or purportedly celebrated under the Act, but they turn out to be invalid. There are certain conditions that will make marriage celebrated under the Act to be invalid. These conditions are stated under the law, a Marriage Act, Section 33, subsections 1 and 2. Now, the first one is stated in subsection 1 of Section 33, and which says that any marriage under the Act wherein one of the parties or any of the parties to the marriage had earlier on married under the custom and now comes back to marry under the Act, such marriage is invalid. That is, a person who wants to marry under the Act. What do we mean by what do we mean by marriage under the Act? That means marriage in accordance with the provisions of the Marriage Act. Yes, and some people call it court marriage. So, for you to celebrate that marriage, you should be single. You should not have married before. So, if a party to this marriage had earlier on conducted or participated or celebrated a marriage under custom, he or she will not be qualified to celebrate marriage under the Act. So, if any of the parties had earlier on been married under the custom, that marriage under the Act becomes invalid. That is one. Other provisions or other conditions that make a marriage celebrated under the Act to be invalid are stated under subsection 2 of Section 33 of the Marriage Act. And they are as follows. If the marriage is celebrated in a place that is not licensed by the minister in charge of marriage, the marriage should be celebrated in a place that is licensed place of worship. It must be a licensed place of worship. That is a place of worship that is licensed by the minister in charge of marriage. That is the Minister of Interior. Or celebrated in the marriage registry in the district where the marriage is celebrated. Either in the district, in the office of the marriage registrar, or is celebrated in a licensed place of worship. It could be in a mosque that is licensed or in a church that is licensed. So if a marriage is celebrated in a venue and that venue where the marriage is celebrated is not a place licensed by the Minister of Interior, such marriage is invalid. If both parties had willingly and knowingly agreed that such marriage would be celebrated. That is one thing. Number two, though this particular one I say has an exception, the only exception is that if the minister in charge of marriage has given what is called special license, licensing a special place, that is something. So, for instance, there are two ways a place can be licensed. It can be given general license or specific license, what is called special license. Maybe a particular marriage wherein the parties did not go through the route of getting a marriage certificate. And now the minister in charge of marriage, that is the Minister of Interior, can waive that by giving special license to those parties, allowing them to go and marry in a particular place. Now, any place that is specifically named by the minister in a special license issued by him, that is where marriage can be conducted. So if he did not license any place of worship, any marriage celebrated in that place is invalid. The next thing that can render, that is the third thing now, that can render a marriage invalid is if any of the parties uses a false name to celebrate the marriage. For instance, my name is Benjamin. If I want to celebrate a marriage and now use a name that is not my own, I tell people that my name is Gideon. Then any marriage I celebrate with that name that is not my name is an invalid marriage. Now, another thing that can make a marriage purportedly celebrated under the Act to be invalid is if a marriage is celebrated without obtaining the registrar's marriage certificate, because the marriage certificate is the first thing to obtain before one enters into marriage. The registrar of marriage has to issue marriage certificate as required under Section 11 of the Marriage Act. Now, it is after this certificate is given that one can now go and marry. Now, any marriage that is celebrated in the absence of this certificate of marriage is an invalid marriage. So the final thing, the fifth thing now, that can make a marriage invalid after it has been celebrated is the minister who celebrated the marriage. It matters who celebrates the marriage. The minister that celebrates the marriage must be a minister that belongs to the denomination that is licensed to celebrate a marriage. So he must belong to the place of worship. He must be a minister recognized and a member and a part of the place of worship that is licensed to celebrate marriage. What am I saying? That is a place of worship that is licensed to celebrate a marriage. Their minister that is recognized is the person that can celebrate a valid marriage, that is, can officiate a valid marriage. The implication of this is that if a denomination goes and hire a minister that is not a pastor or a minister in that particular denomination, that marriage is invalid, provided that the two parties know and are queens of the celebration of marriage when these circumstances exist. The only exception is that if the ministers celebrate the marriage and the parties to the marriage did not know that the person who celebrated the marriage is not a member of their church. So it is a factor that can invalidate a marriage if you leave the pastor of your church and go and hire a pastor from another denomination to come and celebrate and officiate a marriage under the Act. so that marriage is invalid. So thank you and God bless you. We'll continue to upload more video on this. If you have a question or whatsoever you want to ask us, whether on this topic or whatsoever, this channel is all about Nigerian law, who we discuss law. So let us discuss law in this channel of law. Thank you very much.